please use subscribe, like, and share to stay informed about the latest developments in 2024-2025 season. Now, let's analyze the match properly.
Right, so let's start this tactical analysis video by highlighting the good. And before that, we need to, of course, talk about Amorim's 3-4-3 system. The 3-4-3 in general is a pretty flat, wide system. Therefore, it is perfectly natural that teams that play the system naturally tend to gravitate towards build-ups on the wing. But of course, what makes Amorim's system slightly different is the fact that he likes to use inverted wing backs. In this case, Diogo Dalot, who is right-footed on the left, and Amad Diallo, who is left-footed on the right. And the reason he likes to do this is because this creates zigzag patterns in that a typical Amorim build-up actually goes from the defensive trio to one of the wing backs, and then from the wing backs, since they are inverted, these angular passes towards the center, and then from the players who are in the center, either they go straight at the defense or they go wide again. And these types of build-ups can actually be quite difficult to defend against, as was the case for most of the first half against Ipswich. And here is a case in point, Exhibit A. Here, Garnacho and Diogo Dalot in perfect coordination, perfect synergy. Garnacho makes a pretty good run into the space, and then of course Diogo Dalot finds him, and that makes it really interesting for us from an attacking perspective, because these kind of plays, they can tend to drag the opposition fullbacks, in this case Tuanzebe, out of position. And of course, in these kind of situations where there is a lot of space, we do have players like Garnacho and Rashford who can be extremely difficult to defend against. But that was not the only situation. Of course, here I'm highlighting quite a few sequences that show this Ruben Amorim build-up play, just to show you guys that, of course, the goal that we scored in the first half, in the first minute of the game, was no fluke. Okay, so in this sequence again, Diogo Dalot is going to be a key player there. Of course, Andre Onana was kind of our deep line player. One of the reasons and one of the factors that make a 3-4-3 really potent is the movement of these two players in midfield. You know, the base of the midfield, in this case, Christian Eriksen and Casemiro, they have to be quite mobile and they have to love to get on the ball. Otherwise, it's a system that can be quite flat and easy to defend against. Whenever we play against teams that like to press on the front foot, energetic team, as was the case with Ipswich. But here, because Eriksen comes in to get the ball and he's in acres of space, Burns right here is in a very tough situation, because not only does he need to engage Diogo Dalot, but also he needs to make sure that he blocks this passing lane towards Christian Eriksen. And of course, Diogo Dalot exploits that to go and dribble past the player. Now it opens up an angle for him so he can pass it to Bruno Fernandes. And of course, much more interestingly, towards Amad Diallo right there into the wide positions. Another example right here, and this one is very crucial in highlighting the importance of movement in midfield among players like Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, and Christian Eriksen. In this case right here, as you can see, there isn't a lot of space through the middle. And so Mazraoui can just go wide towards Amad Diallo. But Christian Eriksen is going to do something interesting right here. He carries on running forward, and so he takes the opposition midfielder with him. And then Bruno Fernandes is going to do exactly the same thing, and he takes Jens Kajust with him as well. Now, this leaves Casemiro in a lot of space right here. So Mazraoui can find this pass between the two opposition forwards towards Casemiro. And that was just the right pass to play. And Casemiro identifies a nice opportunity, and then beautiful, exquisite pass towards Diogo Dalot. This sequence right here is very important because Ruben Amorim's system, as I've shown in that video, the last video that I've made, where I talked about Ruben Amorim's system by analyzing Sporting Lisbon's game against PSV Eindhoven, 1-1 draw in the Champions League. PSV Eindhoven were playing the same way as Ipswich, 4-3-3, highly aggressive in the press, and that caused Sporting Lisbon a lot of problems, and that's his well-drilled Sporting Lisbon team. So of course, Manchester United were always going to struggle. So this sequence right here shows the importance of having different pathways of how you can progress the ball forward. Of course, you can go wide towards the wing backs, but of course, sometimes you also have to go through the middle, and that's what Mazraoui and Casemiro did, but that was only because Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen were able to keep moving. They remained dynamic, therefore opening up those spaces for Casemiro. And so here, of course, the ball goes in towards Diogo Dalot. As you can see, again, they start deep, those wing backs, but then effectively they are the wingers in the system. And here's another sequence that was really interesting. And of course, Christian Eriksen is again going to play a crucial role in behind the success in this sequence. Amad Diallo is going to receive the ball, but of course, Christian Eriksen keeps moving and coming close. Amad Diallo gives the ball and then moves immediately. But notice how Garnacho right now, he's not playing wide and up. He's actually getting used to this new role that Ruben Amorim is giving him. Mainly, he needs to play as a false 9 or an attacking midfielder. Garnacho is kind of like a false 10. He's like a 10/7 hybrid in this new system. Therefore, he needs to drop back. In effect, him and Bruno Fernandes need to create a box alongside Casemiro and Christian Eriksen in front of the defense in order to provide a lot of passing lanes and triangles for the team. And that's exactly what Garnacho did, and that's amazing. As soon as he passes the ball back to Christian Eriksen, he moves into space. That's amazing off the ball movement from Garnacho. Now Amad Diallo can find him. Now this was a wasted opportunity, but right here with Bruno Fernandes and especially Dalot over there, that space should have been exploited had we not kind of gotten confused in this sequence. YouTube algorithm, and at this point, that is actually the best way you can support this channel. Don't do it for me, do it for the puppy. All right, so let's get going. Of course, I showed you those sequences to show you that the goal we scored in the first minute was not a fluke, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about here. First of all is De Ligt's positioning right here, which is quite interesting. He's playing more as a defensive midfielder, and the reason for that is to actually drag some of the forward players to allow Onana to have space. And of course here Casemiro and Christian Eriksen, this was in the beginning of the game. The instructions were still fresh in the players' minds, and so the players were still quite dynamic and up for it. And so all of these options in midfield mean that it's harder for Ipswich to actually put pressure on us. So as you can see, they're committing quite a few of their players, but Mazraoui is still free. And then now Mazraoui is going to go towards Diallo over there. But the mistake that Ipswich made is that Davis, the left back, is now too committed. Bruno Fernandes is making a very good run into